Uncovering the past. This looks like a nonfiction passage, so I'm going to start by reading the first paragraph in detail till I understand what's going on. Archaeology as a distinct branch of science is only about 2 centuries old. The first archaeological activities focused largely on the search for clues about earlier human societies. In the 19th century, most archaeologists were amateurs, trained in ancient languages, histories. Many were art historians whose interest lay in the artwork and monuments of civilization. For the most part, their excavations were aimed at uncovering and removing priceless artwork and other valuable artifacts from museum display. Collectively, these archaeologists are now considered traditional archaeologists. Today, however, so we're changing direction here, contrasting transition. There is a different approach to archaeology, one that tries to reconstruct the everyday life of people in ancient times by applying the scientific methods of a range of specialized fields. Modern archaeologists take full advantage of technology. So old archaeologists wanted artwork, priceless jewelry. New archaeologists are looking to find out how people lived, and they use technology. They're more specialized and focused. Paragraph 3. The excavations at Kourion, a Roman port city on the island of Cyprus, serve as an example of the modern approach. Portions of Kourion had been unexpectedly buried by massive earthquake in the 14th century. Traditional archaeologists were interested in the remains of the theater, the temple, classic monuments, precious objects such as jewelry. Modern archaeologists, however, again, this contrasting transition, focus their studies and excavations on the settlement itself. This preserved seaport has proved to be a gold mine of important information about everyday life 16 centuries ago. Paragraph 4. During one excavation of a house at Kourion, for example, so we said Kourion, the city in ancient Rome, was a great example of the modern approach. And here we have an example within that of a house. Anthropologists were able to reconstruct the skeleton of a young girl whom they called Camellia on the basis of her teeth. They were able to determine her age. She was about 13. Even after centuries, the forensic scientists could study the physical evidence in ways similar to those in criminal investigations. Other specialists in this excavation include a zooarchaeologist who identified animal remains, including a mule. Another specialist, a paleobotanist, studied the contents of a bake oven at the site and identified 4 domesticated grains. So now we're transitioning, contrasting, change in direction again. Although the archaeologists at this site unearthed a few beautiful items, the excavation did not uncover any priceless artwork for the museums. Nonetheless, the archaeological processes used at Kourion have given us valuable insight into everyday life in a Roman city. Okay, so we essentially progress from a city that's a useful example of the modern approach, where we learned about their life within that city. We specifically looked at a house where we were able to use forensic evidence to identify a girl and her age and specific details. And then other specialists come into play as well, not just archaeologists. They identify animals around there. They identified not necessarily plants, but a bake oven site and what grains and things they ate. And ultimately, it was a useful or valuable insight. What's the attitude here? This is sort of an expository passage to tell you about archaeologists and compare the two, or contrast the 2 different types of archaeologists from the old versus the new, and give an example of where that occurred. So it's relatively neutral in attitude, and I think we're ready to answer the questions.